This blade came from your hands. Now your fate rides with mine." Elias Vorn wiped the sweat from his brow as the hum of the forge filled the chamber. The workshop was a maze of metal and glass, wires snaking across the floor like living veins. Sparks flew from the energy core embedded in the blade he was shaping, casting eerie shadows across the walls. The weapon was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, an ancient design fused with modern human technology. It seemed fragile at first glance, a relic from a long-lost era, but beneath the polished surface, it pulsed with the quiet heartbeat of raw power. He held the blade up to the dim light, studying the patterns etched along its edge. Each line, each curve, was more than decoration. It was a memory, a message coded in human ingenuity. His ancestors had fought wars that stretched across the stars, and now this single weapon carried their legacy. Elias had spent years perfecting it, combining knowledge scavenged from old archives with his own innovative designs, and yet a deep unease gnawed at him. Humans were no longer the dominant species. The galaxy had long assumed they were weak, primitive, and unworthy. The alien races, the Zilari, the Thryn, and the Kar, Zen, saw humans as little more than slaves, laborers, and curiosities. But Elias believed otherwise. Humans had a strength that was invisible to the untrained eye, resourcefulness, courage, and a refusal to surrender, even when all hope seemed lost. The door to his workshop creaked open, and a shadow fell across the floor. Elias instinctively reached for the blade, but it was already too late. Karzen raiders had arrived. Karzen warriors were formidable. Towering and chitinous, their forearms ended in clawed hands capable of rending steel. Their eyes glowed a deep violet, scanning everything with cold precision. Elias froze as one of them stepped forward, curiosity mixed with suspicion. The creature's mandibles clicked softly, a sound that felt like judgment. Elias's heart raced, but he did not panic. He knew the blade was more than a weapon. It was a test, a message, and a shield, all in one. He had hoped it would never be needed this way, but now it had no choice. The Karzen warrior reached out, and in that instant, the blade seemed to hum. A faint glow ran along the edge, tracing the human patterns like fire along a tapestry. Elias's eyes widened. The blade reacted not to him, but to the alien's presence. It recognized a being foreign yet significant, a choice that would change everything. Before Elias could decide, the Karzen snatched the blade from his hands, its claws wrapped around the hilt, and for a moment it seemed to study the weapon, as if it were alive. Then, without warning, the warrior swung it. The energy surged. Light erupted from the blade, cutting through the air with a sound that was both a scream and a whisper. The Karzen froze, taken aback by the weapon's unexpected power. Sparks danced across the room as the blade pulsed, reacting to both its human origin and the alien grip. Elias realized what was happening. The blade was binding itself to the Karzen. He could feel it in his mind. A faint connection, a thread linking his thoughts with the aliens. Memories, emotions, and even instinct began to overlap in strange, fleeting flashes. He saw what the Karzen had seen, raiding parties, distant worlds, and fleeting moments of loneliness behind the warrior's hardened exterior. And in that moment, Elias understood the truth. This was no ordinary weapon. It was alive in its own way, a living testament to human innovation and willpower. It chose its wielder, and in doing so, it chose the path of fate for both species. The Karzen lowered the blade, confusion evident in its stance. It had never felt anything like this before. Power, yes, but also a strange pull toward the human who had created it. Elias stepped forward cautiously, hands raised in peace. "I did not make it to hurt you," he said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "This blade, it carries a message, a warning. It is tied to humanity's strength." The alien's mandibles clicked softly. It tilted its head, studying him. The glow along the blade softened but did not vanish. A single phrase echoed in Elias's mind, clear as though it had been spoken aloud. Bond accepted. Fate shared. Shock and disbelief washed over him. The blade had spoken, through connection, not voice. It had chosen, and in choosing it had tied their destinies together. For the first time, Elias saw the warrior not as an enemy, but as an individual. The Karzen was not just a conqueror or a soldier, it was a being capable of understanding, learning, and perhaps even change. The realization was both exhilarating and terrifying. If the alien accepted this bond, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift in ways no one had imagined. The raid continued outside, the sounds of battle echoing through the corridor, but within the workshop, time seemed to slow. Elias and the Karzan regarded one another, connected by an invisible thread, both uncertain and curious about what would come next. Elias broke the silence. "If you are willing to listen, I can show you what humans are capable of. Not just our weapons, but our minds, our courage, our will to survive." The Karzan hesitated. Its violet eyes flickered, as if processing the offer. Then, almost imperceptibly, it nodded. The movement was small, but it carried weight. The alien warrior had accepted the possibility of something more than conquest. It had acknowledged the spark of humanity that burned within the blade, and perhaps within Elias himself. Outside, the world remained hostile, and the galaxy continued its long struggle. But inside the workshop, a new story had begun. One of shared destiny, of a bond that neither species fully understood, and of the untapped potential that humans still carried. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The blade would guide them, test them, and push them beyond limits they had not imagined. And as the Karzan lifted the weapon, the connection between them deepened. Thoughts mingled, emotions intertwined. The line between human and alien blurred in subtle, astonishing ways. The first sparks of adventure had been struck. And as the hum of the blade filled the room, Elias whispered to himself, a mix of awe and determination in his voice, "This blade came from my hands, and now our fates ride together." In the distance, the city lights flickered. Ships prepared for battle. The galaxy waited. But for Elias and the Karzan, the fight would not be merely for survival. It would be for understanding, for discovery, and for the possibility that humans could rise once more to their rightful place among the stars. And somewhere deep within the blade, the message remained, silent yet undeniable. The story of humanity had only just begun. The bond between Elias and the Karzan warrior had been forged in the heat of chaos, but the galaxy outside was far from quiet. News of the raid spread quickly, and the alien empire's fleet began moving toward the human colonies. For Elias, there was no time to waste. The blade, now humming faintly in Karzan's grasp, pulsed as though alive, guiding them toward a hidden path, a path only the humans could understand. The connection between them had deepened. Elias could feel the alien's thoughts more clearly now, a swirl of confusion, fear, and curiosity. In turn, Karzan sensed Elias's emotions, determination, caution, and an unshakable will that radiated like sunlight through steel. Words were unnecessary. The blade had made them companions in fate. "Why are you helping me?" Karzan finally asked, its voice a deep vibration, carrying a hint of disbelief. Elias stepped closer, careful not to make sudden movements. "Because this blade, it is more than a weapon. It carries the legacy of my people. If it falls into the wrong hands, the galaxy suffers. And right now, you and I are its keepers." The warrior tilted its massive head, trying to comprehend the human's words. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and, most importantly, fearless. That fearlessness was something Karzan had rarely encountered in the beings it encountered. Most species bent under their control, submitting without resistance. But humans challenged destiny itself. The first step was survival. Elias led Karzan through a series of hidden tunnels beneath the colony, their path lit by the soft glow of the blade. The walls were etched with centuries-old carvings, reminders of humans' past victories, tragedies, and wisdom. As they moved, Elias explained what little he could. The blade reacts only to those who can carry its burden. That is why it bonded with you. But it is also testing you. Humans survived in the galaxy because we never stop learning. We adapt, we create, we endure. If you want to survive with it, you must do the same. Karzan's mandibles clicked in thought. "Adaptation is survival," it said slowly. "Humans are persistent. I feel it now." By dawn, they had reached the outskirts of the colony, where scavenged ships sat abandoned, remnants of humans' past explorations. Elias had prepared one, a sleek craft designed for speed and stealth. The moment Karzan stepped aboard, the blade pulsed, as if approving the choice. The stars stretched infinitely outside the viewport, and Elias felt both awe and responsibility. Humans had once roamed freely among these constellations, shaping worlds and defending others. Now, most of their colonies were hidden, forgotten, or under alien rule. But Elias believed in a truth that few dared voice. Humanity's time was not over. Their flight was tense. Every sensor scan and every distant blink in space could signal pursuit. Yet Elias and Karzan moved in silence, bound by the understanding that had formed between them. Slowly, the warrior began to ask questions, not about the blade, but about humans themselves. "Why do your people fight?" Karzan asked. "When defeat is likely?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because defeat is not the end. Surrender is. Humans do not fight because we always win. We fight because hope is worth more than fear. Our strength is not just in our weapons. It's in our courage, our minds, and our refusal to yield." The Karzan remained silent for a long while, processing this. Its species measured strength by dominance, power, and conquest. Human resilience was a new concept, alien in its complexity. The blade pulsed between them, a subtle reminder that it recognized the truth in Elias's words. Hours passed, and the stars outside shifted. Then, a sudden alarm lit the cockpit. Imperial scouts had detected them. Elias's fingers danced across the controls, engaging the ship's cloaking systems. The Garzine leaned over, its multiple eyes scanning the holographic displays with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "You are cunning," it admitted. "Not just with weapons, but with thought." "We had to be. For centuries, humans have survived where others could not. Creativity is survival." Their journey took them to a forgotten sector of the galaxy, where humans had once hidden archives, laboratories, and strongholds. Elias's plan was simple but risky: find information about the blade's true power before the Empire could act. The Karzan watched him work, realizing the humans were masters of preparation and strategy. Every move, every precaution was carefully calculated. At the archive, they discovered records older than any living human. The data revealed a time when humans were protectors of multiple star systems, wielding technologies that balanced the forces of the galaxy. They had retreated not out of fear, but to preserve knowledge and to avoid misuse of their power. And now, the blade was one of their most guarded creations, a beacon of potential, capable of turning the tide against any threat. Karzan studied the records, experiencing flashes of understanding. Elias watched the warrior's expressions shift. "Do you see now?" he asked. "Humans are not what the Empire says we are. Our strength lies in ingenuity, courage, and unity. That is why the blade chose you, and why it will continue to guide us both." For the first time, Karzan felt something akin to respect for humanity. Not the fear it was taught to have, not the expectation of weakness, but genuine acknowledgement of capability. It was unsettling, yet strangely liberating. The bond with Elias and the blade was teaching the warrior a new way of seeing the galaxy. But they were not alone. The Empire's pursuit was relentless. Scouts followed, and every jump through space carried the risk of detection. Yet the bond between human and alien allowed them to anticipate threats in ways neither could achieve alone. When one sensed danger, the other reacted instinctively. Through these trials, Karzan began to change. It questioned orders it had never doubted, reconsidered strategies it had never failed to follow, and most remarkably, it began to trust Elias, not blindly, but with the cautious understanding that humans were capable of more than brute strength. By the time they reached the edge of the galaxy's outer rim, both knew the next phase of their journey would be even more dangerous. The Empire would not relent, and the blade would demand tests of courage and skill unlike any they had faced. But now, they were no longer just a human and an alien. They were partners, bound by fate, by the living legacy of the human blade, and by a shared understanding that the future could be rewritten. As they prepared to jump to the next sector, Elias glanced at the Karzan. "We're not just surviving anymore," he said. "We're setting the stage for what humans were always meant to be, and we might just surprise the galaxy." The warrior regarded him silently, its violet eyes reflecting the distant stars. Then, almost imperceptibly, it nodded. The connection deepened once more, and the blade pulsed with quiet satisfaction. And somewhere in the shadows of the ship, the memory of countless human victories whispered through the weapon, reminding both Elias and Karzan that courage, ingenuity, and resilience were stronger than any empire. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly, indifferent yet full of possibility. Inside the small craft, two beings, one human, one alien, prepared to challenge that galaxy, armed with a bond neither fully understood but both trusted completely. And, in that trust, a new story began. A story of humans rising, of alliances that defied expectation, and of the quiet, unstoppable power of hope. The hidden archive lay silent, surrounded by stars that had witnessed centuries of conflict and change. Elias and Karzen stepped carefully through the ancient halls, their footsteps echoing softly against the cold metal walls. The archive was vast, a maze of information preserved by humans who had vanished long before the current empire rose to power. Every chamber told a story of human ingenuity, sacrifice, and courage, a legacy almost forgotten. Elias approached a console, dust drifting around his boots. "This is where it begins," he said, his voice steady but filled with reverence. The blade was not just a weapon. It was part of a network, a safeguard. Humans designed it to test character, to ensure only the worthy could wield our full potential. Karzen watched silently, its violet eyes reflecting the soft glow of the console. The warrior had grown accustomed to Elias's calm determination, yet the words stirred a new curiosity. "Worthiness?" it asked. "Your people judged others by power?" Elias shook his head. "Not by power alone, by courage. By the will to protect, to create, to endure. Humans survived not because we were the strongest, but because we refused to give up. We were strategists, thinkers, and dreamers, and this blade, it carries all that." The console flickered, revealing hollow archives of human history. Scenes of battles against invaders, daring escapes, and brilliant inventions played silently in the air. Karzen absorbed the images, realizing that humans had been far more than the Empire claimed. "They were protectors," Karzen said softly, almost as if speaking to itself. "Not slaves, not weak, protectors." "Yes," Elias replied. "We defended countless systems, often without recognition. And when threats became too great, we withdrew, not out of fear, but to preserve knowledge for a time when we could rise again." The blade pulsed between them almost impatiently, as if urging them forward. Elias touched it lightly, feeling the energy surge through the room. It was alive, a repository of human memory, wisdom, and intent. Through it, he glimpsed moments from the distant past, humans standing against impossible odds, victories born from cleverness, and losses that shaped the very spirit of their species. Karzen felt it too. Flashes of human bravery, determination, and sacrifice entered its mind. For the first time, it understood the essence of humanity, not just as a species, but as an idea, a force that could inspire or terrify. The alien warrior's rigid sense of hierarchy and power began to shift. Strength alone did not define a being. Courage, resilience, and intelligence did. Elias pointed to a star map on the console. "This is where we left our mark," he said. "Systems we protected, technologies we left behind. And this blade, it is a key, a test, and a guide. It chooses those capable of understanding humanity's true potential." Karzen's mandibles clicked in thought. "And it chose me?" "Yes," Elias said quietly. "'Cause you are capable of understanding, not just using it for destruction, but for balance. The blade senses character, intention, and courage. It binds those who share its purpose." The warrior paused, absorbing the weight of the revelation. The Empire had told it that humans were insignificant, weak, and unworthy. Yet here was evidence of brilliance, strategy, and courage unmatched in the galaxy. The realization unsettled Karzen, yet a strange admiration began to grow. Suddenly, a series of alarms echoed through the archive. Imperial drones had detected their presence. Elias's eyes narrowed. "We need to move. The Empire cannot know we are here." Karzen readied itself, muscles tensing as the blade hummed with energy. Together they moved through hidden passages, bypassing security systems that humans had designed centuries ago. Every step reinforced the trust between them. The bond forged in Part 1 and strengthened in Part 2 had matured. As they reached a central chamber, Elias activated a projection. Images of humans standing against impossible odds filled the room. "Look," he said, "humans survived when all seemed lost. We created tools, strategies, and alliances to protect life, not to conquer. And that is why the blade exists, to remind the galaxy of what humanity truly is." Karzen stepped closer, its claws brushing the console. "I see it now," it said.
"Your people are not weak. They are extraordinary."
The blade pulsed strongly, almost as if affirming Karzen's understanding. It had guided them here for a reason, not just to survive, but to awaken the warrior to humanity's truth. And the more Karzen understood, the more its loyalty shifted. It no longer saw humans as inferior, it saw them as equals, capable of shaping the galaxy. Elias continued, pointing to a series of historical records. "Humans made mistakes, yes, but every mistake was a lesson, every loss a guide. We survived not because we were flawless, but because we learned, adapted, and endured.
That is the legacy the blade carries, and now you are part of that legacy.
The warrior's mind raced. Its empire had taught it to value obedience, dominance, and control. Yet the evidence before it painted a different picture. Strategy, courage, and resilience were superior to mere force, and humans, these unpredictable, clever, and unyielding beings, embodied that lesson perfectly. Suddenly, the blade projected a series of coordinates into the air. Elias recognized them immediately. These lead to our old strongholds, hidden throughout the galaxy. Places where human knowledge, technology, and resources are preserved. If we reach them, we can access tools the Empire cannot even imagine. Karzen studied the map. And you would return humanity to power? Elias shook his head. Not power in the way the Empire thinks. Influence, respect, perhaps. But more importantly, we will show the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated, that courage and intelligence can change fate itself. And the blade will help guide us. The warrior paused, sensing the weight of the decision. To ally with humans meant defying its own empire, risking everything. Yet the connection forged by the blade was undeniable. Elias's words, combined with the evidence of human resilience, made something stir within Karzen, a curiosity, a respect, and perhaps even loyalty to a cause it had never considered. Before they could proceed, the Empire struck. Drones and ships appeared on the sensors, converging on their location. Elias's fingers flew across the controls, activating hidden defenses and cloaking mechanisms. Karzen read the tactical data, instinctively moving as a partner rather than an enemy. The battle was silent but intense. The archive was protected by systems humans had long abandoned, yet the warriors' coordination with Elias proved flawless. Together they navigated traps, neutralized drones, and slipped through corridors the Empire could not predict. After hours of careful maneuvering, they emerged into the starfield above the hidden system. The galaxy stretched endlessly, indifferent but full of possibilities. Elias exhaled, the weight of discovery pressing on him, but also a thrill of hope. "You see now," he said, glancing at Karzen. "Humans are more than the Empire claims. Our strength is not just in weapons. It is in courage, strategy, and the refusal to give up. That is what the blade chose, and that is why it guides us." Karzen regarded him silently. For the first time, it understood the depth of human potential. Respect, curiosity, and even a hint of admiration glimmered in its eyes. "Humans are extraordinary," it admitted. "I will follow this path with you." The blade pulsed brightly between them, acknowledging the commitment. Their bond was no longer a test, it was a partnership. Together they would uncover humanity's hidden legacy and face the Empire with knowledge, courage, and determination. Elias smiled, feeling the pulse of the blade resonate with his own heartbeat. Then it begins. The galaxy will see what humans were always meant to be. As they plotted a course toward the first hidden stronghold, the stars seemed to watch silently, as if aware that history was about to shift. And within the quiet hum of the blade, a single truth resonated. Humanity's time was not past. It was rising. The journey ahead would be dangerous, filled with trials and enemies. But Elias and Karzen, bound by fate and guided by the living legacy of the human blade, were ready. They were no longer just a human and an alien. They were the beginning of a new chapter, one where courage, intelligence, and resilience could challenge even the mightiest empire. And somewhere deep within the blade, a memory whispered. The story of humanity, forgotten by many but never gone, was ready to reclaim its place among the stars. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport as Elias Vorn adjusted the controls of their ship. Karzen stood beside him, its forearms folded, eyes scanning the constellations with a newfound awareness. The blade pulsed between them, bright and alive, casting a soft glow that seemed to fill the cockpit with silent purpose. For the first time since the journey began, Elias felt a quiet confidence. Humanity's hidden strength was ready to return to the galaxy, and he would wield it wisely. "The Empire won't wait," Elias said, breaking the silence. "They'll send fleets, drones, everything they have. But we have the advantage. They don't know the secrets we hold, the technology they cannot understand." Karzen's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. And this blade, it chooses who can wield it fully, yes? It will guide us?" "Yes," Elias replied, his voice steady. "It carries the knowledge of my people, the lessons of survival, and the wisdom of centuries." With it, we can turn their strength against them, without losing ourselves in the process. The first human stronghold lay on a forgotten moon, hidden in a system the Empire had long believed abandoned. As they approached, Elias and Karzen observed the ruins from orbit. Crumbling towers, long silent laboratories, and dormant defense systems spoke of a civilization that had once thrived and protected countless worlds. But the blade pulsed stronger here, as if recognizing the echoes of its creators. Landing on the moon's surface, Elias led the way through corridors lit by the blade's soft glow. Dust swirled in the cold air, and the silence of centuries pressed upon them. Yet the bond between human and alien made each step confident, each movement precise. They were no longer just survivors. They were reclaiming a lost legacy. The heart of the stronghold housed a massive chamber filled with human technology, holographic displays, defense matrices, and energy cores capable of powering entire cities. Elias approached a control panel, fingers dancing over ancient symbols, some worn beyond recognition. The blade pulsed in resonance with his movements, guiding him to activate the systems. Karzen observed silently, gradually understanding the depth of human ingenuity. Your people were far more advanced than I imagined, it said. Not just in weapons, but in planning, strategy, preservation. Elias smiled faintly. We prepared for everything. Enemies, disasters, even time itself. Humanity survived because we thought ahead, because we valued knowledge as much as strength. And now, we can use that to restore balance in the galaxy. As the systems hummed to life, the blade flared with energy, projecting a holographic map of the galaxy. It highlighted Imperial fleets, supply lines, and hidden weapons depots, knowledge humans had preserved, waiting for the right moment. Elias traced his finger along the map. We can strike without being struck, he said. We can show the galaxy that humans are not weak, that we have always been capable of shaping history, and the blade will guide us, choosing who deserves to wield this power wisely. Karzen stepped closer, its eyes glowing with understanding. Then we fight not just for survival, but to awaken the galaxy to what humans truly are. The Empire did not wait. Sensors picked up fleets emerging from hyperspace, massive ships bristling with weapons confident in their dominance, yet Elias remained calm. With the blade guiding them and Karzen's combat instincts integrated with human strategy, they had the advantage of unpredictability. The first engagement was swift. Small, human-crafted drones, long dormant, activated automatically. They disrupted communications and disabled key systems in the Imperial fleet. The alien warriors were caught off guard, expecting humans to hide, to flee, to fail. Instead, Elias and Karzen coordinated precise strikes, using intelligence and strategy rather than brute force. Karzen fought alongside humans for the first time, its movements guided not by orders from the Empire, but by instinct and understanding forged through the bond. Together, they disabled command ships and seized control of strategic points. The blade glowed with every successful maneuver, as though celebrating each step toward victory. Amid the chaos, Elias reflected on how far humanity had come. For centuries, they had been underestimated, confined, and dismissed. Yet the essence of humans, adaptable, courageous, and intelligent, remained, waiting for the moment to rise. The Empire's arrogance was their greatest weakness. They could not imagine humans reclaiming their rightful place through intellect, strategy, and courage. Hours passed, and the battle reached its climax. Elias and Karzen coordinated a decisive strike on the Empire's flagship. Using a combination of stealth, precision, and human-crafted systems, they infiltrated the vessel. Inside, corridors were dark, guarded, and filled with alien soldiers confident in their strength. Yet Elias led with calm authority, Karzen's strength amplifying every movement. Together, they neutralized threats without unnecessary violence, showcasing the efficiency and intelligence of human tactics. At the heart of the ship, they found the Imperial Command Corps, a massive control hub directing fleets across multiple sectors. Elias approached it, the blade pulsing more brightly than ever. Its energy resonated with the technology unlocking systems and overriding controls. Lights flickered across the ship as human strategy unfolded perfectly, turning the Empire's own strength into a tool for liberation. Karzen observed, understanding fully for the first time the meaning of human ingenuity. Your people they fight not just to win, but to protect, to preserve, to endure, it said. Elias nodded. And that is why the blade exists, to remind the galaxy of that truth, and to guide those who share our purpose. As the command corps was disabled, fleets across the region slowed, confused, and unable to coordinate. Human systems activated strategically placed defenses, ensuring that the Empire could not strike back immediately. Victory was not complete, but the balance had shifted. Humanity's hidden strength had been revealed, and the galaxy had glimpsed the potential it had long underestimated. In the aftermath, Elias and Karzen stood together on the flagship's bridge. The stars outside seemed to shine differently, as though acknowledging the new reality. Humans were no longer passive, underestimated observers of galactic events. They were a force of intellect, courage, and resilience. And with the blade, they would continue to guide the galaxy toward balance and understanding. This is only the beginning. There are more systems to protect, more knowledge to reclaim. But now we have proven that humanity's time is not past. It is rising. The warrior regarded him silently, its multiple eyes reflecting the stars. "I will stand with you," it said. "Not as your servant, not as your slave, but as your partner. Together we will show the galaxy what humans truly are." The blade pulsed between them, stronger than ever, as if acknowledging their bond and purpose. Its energy filled the room, a beacon of hope and proof of humanity's enduring legacy. And as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, Elias knew the truth he had always believed. Humans were not weak. Humans were clever, courageous, and unstoppable when united by purpose. With the blade as their guide and Karzen as their ally, they could face any challenge, outthink any opponent, and rise to their rightful place in the galaxy. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had returned, not as shadows of the past, but as creators, strategists, and guardians. The Empire had learned, perhaps too late, that intelligence and courage were more powerful than domination alone. Elias lifted the blade, letting its light illuminate the chamber. "This blade came from human hands, and now the galaxy rides with us," he said, his voice carrying determination, hope, and promise. Karzen bowed slightly, acknowledging the truth. "Then let humanity rise," it said, and in that moment the stars seemed to shimmer in response. The bond between human and alien, forged through courage, understanding, and shared purpose, had become a force that no empire could ignore. The story of humanity, long hidden and underestimated, was finally being told. The blade's glow settled into a steady rhythm, a heartbeat that spoke of legacy, trust, and the limitless potential of those who refused to give up. Elias and Karzen prepared to continue their journey, knowing that the Empire would fight, but that humanity had found its place, not through force alone, but through intellect, courage, and the indomitable spirit that had always defined them. And so, with stars as witnesses and the blade as their guide, humans rose once more, stronger, wiser, and ready to shape the galaxy's future.